This is something that really highlights a fatal flaw in the way our system functions. So take a look at this from Li Fang. This is quite the report. He says, Pfizer executives explained to investors that people may need a third dose of COVID vaccine in addition to regular yearly boosters. The company will soon begin plans to hike prices given the significant opportunity for our vaccine. Significant opportunity for our vaccine. So they're viewing this with dollar signs in mind. He goes on to say, the real vaccine conspiracy is the fact that the Bayh-Dole Act allows the federal government to set the price and distribution of publicly financed medicine, but has never exercised that right. Not on HIV/AIDS meds, COVID vaccines, or anything, ever. Pharma always pushes back and wins. That is stunning. That is stunning. So, the government is involved in so many projects where they fund the creation of various medicines. And what Li Fang is pointing out here is, under U.S. law, they have the right to set the price and distribution of these drugs, and they've never done it. So in other words, you and I, our tax money funds the creation of these medicines, and then Big Pharma swoops in, buys up the rights to it, and then sells it back to us and price gouges us and jacks up the price. That is phenomenally corrupt and backwards. And by the way, the reason why they get away with it and the reason why they do it is because they've bought the politicians. Big Pharma has donated to the Republican Party, to the Democratic Party, to individual politicians. They've given them a tremendous amount of money. And then guess what? When they're in power, they rig the rules in their favor. It's I scratch your back, you scratch mine. You fund my campaign? Okay, what do you want? What do you want in this legislation? I'll give you whatever you want. You want a new subsidy? You want a new tax break? Whatever you want. I got your back. And this is how it manifests. So, seriously, think about how backwards this is. Think about how backwards this is. They're looking at the fact that now we might need regular COVID booster shots and you might need a third shot and it's going to be a continuous issue. They're looking at it as, quote, a significant opportunity. They're excited and they can't wait to hike the prices, to price gouge. They can't wait to do it. Listen, I said it before, I'll say it again. Nationalize Big Pharma. You know, that's probably one of my opinions that you could say is the most radical, but I'm truly of the belief that anything involving health should be nationalized. I think health insurance should be nationalized, health care should be nationalized, medicine like Big Pharma, that should be nationalized. Because, listen, we've run the experiment, doing it in the private marketplace and having some sort of a hybrid system, and we see the results. We have a disastrous system here, an incredibly corrupt system, and the outcomes are terrible. I'm reminded of people in the UK watched the interview of Meghan with Oprah, and they were mortified at the fact that we had pharmaceutical ads running. That's a very common thing in the US, pharmaceutical ads. Other developed countries have banned pharma ads. You want to know why? Because what? You get sick, you go get help, the doctor tells you what to take, and you go take it. What place is there for advertising? You're supposed to go to your doctor and ask to take a certain medicine? You're not an expert on this. You didn't go to school for this. You don't know what works and what doesn't work and what fits your symptoms and what doesn't. That's ridiculous. But we have Big Pharma basically acting like drug dealers here. They're pushing their products on us. And by the way, there's across the board in many ways, there's disincentives in the system and perverse incentives where you're not geared towards making people healthy and fixing problems. That's not the way it works, even though that's the way it should work. So, sorry, nationalize the health insurance industry, nationalize health care, and nationalize Big Pharma. I really see no way around it. That's the best you could do. Some would argue, oh, maybe that's not the path, but you should break up Big Pharma. Listen, you got to do something. If you want to approach it with an anti-monopoly view, I get it. I'm sure it would be better if we did that than if we keep it as it is right now, but I think you should just nationalize it. I do, especially because tax money funds so much the creation of various medicines in the first place. Go that next step. I mean, all we have is, again, a mafia taking their cut and jacking up prices and skimming millions or billions. It's like, well, what's the point? Why do they exist? They shouldn't exist. This is one area where the profit motive is a perverse incentive structure. For something like COVID and the vaccine, it should be free across the board for everybody. And any talk of like a third vaccine or booster shots and now we're going to jack the prices up. Criminal, man. That should be criminal. That should absolutely be criminal. That shouldn't be allowed. But they're openly talking about it in meetings with investors and with the boards and whatnot. They are openly talking about that. They're openly having that conversation. And the federal government is not on your side. If they were on your side, they would absolutely use the Bayh-Dole Act and set the price, set the distribution, make it incredibly fair. I mean, I think it should just be free. It should be paid for via tax dollars. But, the follow-up stuff probably won't be free, and they'll price gouge you, and the government won't do anything because the government works for Big Pharma. They don't work for you, even though they're supposed to work for you. So this is a true scandal, but watch, the media is not going to cover this much. Credit to Li Fang of The Intercept. He does amazing work. Mainstream media is not going to cover this much, and you want to know why? Because a lot of their ad money comes from Big Pharma. So here we are. You have to come to an asshole YouTuber like myself, an idiot, to get anything resembling the truth in the news. And that's not to say that I'm great. It's a giant indictment on the system.